Conqueror of Gaul. Dictator of Rome. Lover of Cleopatra. Star of a hit HBO series. Julius Caesar is the most famous Roman. His political and military careers are well known and amply chronicled here on YouTube. But both YouTube documentaries and the wider world of Roman history buffs tend to overlook Caesar's profound impact on the city of Rome. Caesar's greatest building projects were cut short by his assassination. He planned to construct a vast public library for the Roman people, a theater that would span the slopes of the Capitoline, and a gargantuan temple of Mars. He even hoped to change the course of the Tiber itself and stop the floods that crashed through the city almost every winter. None of these plans survived him. Before he died, however, Caesar remade the heart of Rome in his own image. He transformed the Roman Forum, giving it the shape it would have for the rest of antiquity. He built his own forum beside it, dominated by a temple that proclaimed his descent from the gods. And, in doing so, he set an example of grandeur and munificence that centuries of emperors would imitate. Caesar spent much of his life on and around the Roman Forum. The dramas of his political career unfolded among its riot-scarred buildings. He staged gladiatorial combats and beast hunts there, covering the whole forum with temporary awnings for the comfort of spectators. And, for many years, he lived beside the forum in the official residence of the Pontifex Maximus. The forum that Caesar knew had been the social, political, and legal center of Rome for more than half a millennium. On one side of the Forum Square stood the Curia, or Senate House, recently rebuilt by the dictator Sulla. Beside it was a civil basilica, a rectangular structure with an open floor plan designed to provide a covered space for legal business. Another basilica stood on the opposite side of the Forum Square, flanked by ancient temples and the House of the Vestal Virgins. Although the shops that once lined it had been moved to other parts of the city, the streets around the Forum Square were still thronged with merchants, and hummed with the bartering and bantering of Roman salesmanship. The Forum itself was an assault on the senses, crossed and recrossed by streams of pedestrians, crowded with idlers sitting on temple steps, echoing with the stentorian rhetoric of the lawyers in the basilicas, reeking with the blood and the incense of sacrifices in the surrounding temples. The Forum was especially chaotic in the turbulent last days of the Republic, when the gangs and hired gladiators of rival politicians brawled in the square, elections escalated into riots, and men were murdered in broad daylight among the temples. After the death of the populist politician Clodius, his supporters carried the body into the Senate House and burned the building down around it. Caesar was in Gaul during the worst of the riots. But even before fire destroyed the Curia, he had decided to renovate and remake the Forum. He began by taking the unprecedented step of building a new forum alongside the old, ostensibly to provide more space for legal business. The real reason, however, was political. Caesar wanted to remind the Roman people of his benevolence and generosity while he was away on campaign. Construction soon began on a rectangular plaza ringed by colonnades of imported Greek marble. The project was extremely expensive. At a time when most men made less than 1,000 sesterces a year, Caesar supposedly spent more than 100 million sesterces just buying the land on which the forum would sit. But, thanks to the spoils of Gaul, he could afford it. Years later, even after he had spent colossal amounts during the Civil War, Caesar could display 63,000 talents, that is, something like 3.5 million pounds, of Gallic silver in his triumphal procession. Construction of the new forum stalled during the civil wars, when Caesar threw all of his resources into the struggle against Pompey. The night before the fateful battle at Pharsalus, Caesar vowed to build a temple for Venus if he defeated his great rival. The following day, despite being outnumbered 2-1, he won a crushing victory. In fulfillment of his vow, he ordered his agents in Rome to begin building a temple at one end of his half-completed forum. The most remarkable aspect of this temple was its dedication, not just to Venus, but to Venus Genetrix, that is, Venus the Mother. This title was Caesar's invention, intended to remind the Roman people that his family claimed descent from the goddess, and by implication, that Caesar himself was something more than a common mortal. As his new forum took shape on one side of the old forum square, Caesar began to transform the other side by building the colossal Basilica Julia, famous for its size and the lavishness of its decoration. It may have been the awesome amount of marble required for the basilica's construction that prompted Caesar to open the famous quarries at Carrara, which would go on to supply the vast bulk of Rome's marble for the next 500 years, and, much later, the raw material for the sculptures of Michelangelo. When the basilica and its new forum were complete, Caesar, now dictator, began to build a new Senate house. He planned a tall brick structure, glittering with marble and stucco, that would protect the low podium on which senators sat their chairs. As completed by Augustus, and remodeled many times since, this building still stands today. In tandem with this new Senate house, Caesar began to build a new rostra, or speaker's platform, along one side of the forum square. Apparently at the same time, he had the square itself paved with marble, marking another step in the forum's evolution into the monument and museum of imperial power that it would be for the rest of Roman history. Caesar dedicated his new basilica and new forum on the same day, September 26, 46 BC. This was the fourth and final day of his colossal quadruple triumph, otherwise notable for featuring a combat between war elephants and a naval battle in which armies of 3,000 men, all prisoners of war, fought to the death in full-sized triremes. Since the dedication ceremonies were held in the evening, Caesar stationed 40 trained elephants with massive lamps to light the forum and nearby streets. These ceremonies were impressive, but even more dazzling were the treasures Caesar placed in the Temple of Venus, which included antique paintings by Greek masters, dozens of rare engraved gems, and a breastplate gleaming with hundreds of British pearls. The open plaza in front of the temple was dominated by a statue of Caesar astride his favorite horse, a swift charger famous for the toe-like ridges of his front hooves. Caesar's new forum epitomized the generosity that made the Roman people love him. But it also encapsulated the ambitions that made him intolerable to the aristocracy. The Ides of March came only 18 months after the dedication of the forum. Caesar's legacy, however, proved harder to kill. His body was cremated on the forum square, and on the spot where it had been burned, a temple of the deified Julius rose. For the rest of Roman history, this temple would look out over the remade forum, its pediment aglow with the gilded comet that was the symbol of the god Caesar. I hope you enjoyed this short discussion of how Julius Caesar transformed the Roman Forum. You might also be interested in the third episode of my History of Rome in 15 Buildings, which provides additional detail on Caesar's Forum. If you found this video informative, I encourage you to subscribe. I plan to make more like it in the future. Finally, in case you haven't yet been subjected to my sales pitch, you might want to check out my forthcoming book, Naked Statues, Fat Gladiators, and War Elephants, which provides many more details on Caesar's life and career. Stay well, stay tuned, and as always, thanks for watching.